So the Black Lives Matter movement in the United States has gained quite a bit of controversy. A lot of people are calling it a racist, a terrorist organization. They're calling it, again, just those two labels are the most famous or the most perpetuated labels that are applied to the group by numerous opposition groups. I'm not really here to talk about that in its detail because I need to provide articles, I need to provide evidence, and I frankly haven't got the time for that. I am a university student and I'm lazing about all day doing nothing, so of course I'm not going to do the evidence. But apart from that, we're here to talk about, well, I am here to talk about the Black Lives Matter movement in the United States and its impact on the black diaspora across the world. Pardon me. Now, to the best of my knowledge, it gained support in the United States because of the supposed regular shootings of black American citizens in the United States. They're shooting by white, Caucasian, or non-black cops or police officers for no reason, for the supposed reason of racism, for the supposed reason that the cops are racially bigoted, they are racially, they think in racial terms, and they are hateful toward black people, and they want to kill them all. That's the supposed argument. Excuse me. And this is the main fuel for the Black Lives Matter movement, where they say that Black Lives Matter, that they are not just a race of non-humans or of nothing, that they're humans and they deserve life as well. And of course, as human beings, I'm going to sympathise with them. Excuse me, I have a sore throat. But we should sympathise with blacks, and of course, I'm not going to say we shouldn't because they are humans, and it's a bit stupid for me to say we shouldn't because that is hating someone based on their race is racism. But we have to understand that, and again, this is to the best of my knowledge, and if anyone else has any other opinions, I welcome them in the comment section below, but the black people of America have their own culture. They have an entirely different subculture to the majority of white Americans. When you say black in the United States, it's not just a race, it's a different culture. It's another nationality, just without its formalities. It's almost like a nation within a nation. It's almost as if it's a culture within a culture, and you have two Americas, really. You've got a black America and you've got a white America. And white Americas consist of white Americans with a few non-white Americans who assimilate into that culture, and then you've got black America, which is in the majority dominated by black Americans with a few non-blacks who have assimilated into that culture. Really, that's quite rare, but in some ghetto areas and some rundown areas, that's usually the case. So these two Americas, which have developed over time, really cause the rift that we see today in America. And America's a complicated country, and black history in America is complicated. It's not like here in Europe. In Europe, having blacks and non-whites in the UK, for example, which is where I'm from, is quite recent. They came here in the 40s and the 50s, and the surge of them came in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s and so on and so forth. First, it was mainly West Indian or blacks from the Caribbean. It wasn't really African, and we had Indians, and then of course we had the Pakistanis and Bangladeshis and the rest. But having non-whites in the UK and in Europe in general is a relatively new or a recent phenomena. In the US, it's quite long and it's quite historiographically present. The US has bordered non-whites in the case of Mexico, it has had non-whites in its country, with blacks being the main example here for over all of its history. It's had blacks in there. They were brought as slaves in colonial times, and they were there during the Industrial Revolution. They were there during World War One and World War Two. They were there all the way throughout American history. They were there in the Civil War. They were there before that. They were there before America was even a country, before it even became a independent state. So really, blacks are a formidable part of the United States' history, um, as a slave group. Unfortunately, as a slave group. Um, and we're not talking about blacks who have recent immigrant history. We're talking about blacks who have had African American heritage from the beginning, from slave times, because these are the blacks who I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the black American who descends from a Ghanaian or a Ugandan or a Kenyan who just came maybe in the 2000s, maybe in the 1980s or 70s or 50s even. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about these black Americans who have had heritage in America since probably before colonial times or around that time. Because these are the blacks who I will say are the ones who are negatively affected. And that, of course, affects anyone that looks black because they are plummeted into that group of black Americans. The black Americans who have heritage from colonial times are the ones who have experienced slavery. That is a psychologically demeaning thing to go through as a population, as a race, as a demographic, as an ethnicity. Black Americans are an ethnicity of America, exclusive to America, and their culture is exclusive to America as well. Of course, it's admired and it's redone and reinterpreted across the world. There are K-pop groups that try to imitate black rap. That's not me being racist. I'm just saying that the first rappers in America were black. They were popularized by whites, like Eminem, for example. But there are some K-pop groups that imitate that. There are European-born blacks who imitate that culture, whereas their parents do not, etc., etc. But that culture is exclusive to America, and it's exclusive to the blacks who descend from slaves. That is, again, like I just said, a psychologically demeaning thing to go through. It's an entire race, a population of that country, which has gone through a morally and a psychologically demoralizing situation. To give a group like that equal rights all of a sudden is stupid. That's not me saying slavery is good. No. It's me saying that it wasn't done slowly enough. Okay? The civil rights in the 60s, and then you've got the slavery being illegalized. These things were done all of a sudden, and the American white population did not adjust to it at all. They had this prejudice of black people all the way through as being inferior, as being negroids, their race, down to the scientific level. That's what these white Americans called them, and other non-whites who were accepted as white, I guess. But the blacks of America, have been through a lot, and they have been treated less than human for almost all of their history there. For at least 60% of their history in America, they've been treated like slaves, literally. And that's why the issue remains, why there are two Americas, two United States of America, really. There's a black America, and there's a white America. And that's where the divide comes. Now, that's why they talk about racial relations in the US, because it's a real problem there. I wouldn't say it's too much of an issue in the UK because it's perpetuated as one. There have been riots, there have been this and that. But you have to remember that the non-white population of the UK is a new population. It's a new thing. It's not a new culture which has created a different UK. It's an immigrant culture which has created a new UK, I guess. We shouldn't be treating it like it's a major issue. It can be easily solved by assimilation. But the problem in America is really deep. It's more deeper than that. Now, I'm no expert in this issue because I've never been to America. I don't have any black American friends. Sorry, I've been to America, but I haven't really lived in America. I don't have any black American friends. So I don't know about the situation, how it is for them, etc., etc. But I do know that when you are a member of an ethnic minority and you see members of your culture getting killed by members of the other culture, the Black America culture and the White America culture, when you see another person from this other culture kill your member, you are enraged and you are sickened and you feel hateful and you want justice. Okay, you want justice. That's where the Black Lives Matter comes from. Now, Black Lives Matter movement has taken that psychological feeling of a lot of Black Americans and they've made it into a political group now. And these Black Americans of the Black Lives Matter movement are essentially using it to their advantage and using it as propaganda. And frankly, I don't agree with that. Honestly, the way to solve this issue right here and right now is to call for direct separation. And you're going to call me racist for that. You're going to call me, I don't know what you're going to call me, you're just going to call me a racist. I'm not racist. That's the easiest way you can solve this issue. Direct separation of Black Americans from White Americans and the issue will be over. But obviously we know that's not going to happen. We know that can't happen. It's too hard. It's too difficult. It's too, it's stupid really, the idea. But the idea is, of course, it's out of this world really. But what I'm trying to say is, simply put, that's the only solution. However, there are other solutions, and Black Lives Matter doesn't offer those solutions. I'm on their website right now, and this is what they say, who they are. They say Black Lives Matter is an ideological and political intervention in a world where Black lives are systematically and intentionally targeted for demise. It is an affirmation of Black folks' contributions to the society, our humanity, and our resilience in the face of deadly oppression. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, we all have racial prejudices. Both groups, both white and black, have their racial prejudices, and they both have, you all think things. You know, you all think things behind your closed doors, and that's okay because we're humans and we hate each other as tribes. That will always exist. I will say that some cops do have a racial bias. I'm pretty sure all cops have a racial bias. However, whether some of them actually use it in real life, I don't know. And I don't think so. I know that there are some cops or police officers who will have the undertone and they see a black person and be like, oh god, it's another one of them. But they won't shoot them, they'll just treat them a bit differently that they would their own race or member of their own race or another white folk, I guess. But they won't shoot him, they'll just treat him a bit harshly maybe, and that I'm not going to deny. I'm pretty sure that's pretty prevalent. There are some cops who will probably have a racial bias, but they will be steadfast and make sure that they apply justice equally. They do judge people based on their looks. I'm sorry, but people do. If you see a man with a big beard, shaven head, tattoos, and he's white, I'm pretty sure the policeman's going to treat him badly because he's going to stereotype him as a druggie or whatever. If he sees a man in a suit, combed hair, clean cut, probably going to treat him a bit better than that other guy. And if he sees a black man wearing a hoodie, I'm pretty sure he's going to treat him accordingly to the stereotype that's been given to him by society, by the media, by whatever. Blacks are poor in the US. They are the poorest group. I think they're second to, or I think they're just above Native Americans. Again, I'm not sure about this. I'm just going by what I've seen in the past. But they are one of the poorest groups. They earn the less. They earn the lessest amount, and subsequently, a lot of them will live in poverty, and crime is strife in poverty. In areas that are stricken with poverty, crime is always prevalent. So it's an easy way to make money in an area where money isn't made. And the worse an area goes, the worse an area becomes, the less business, the less educated, and the less it just loses its quality of life there as it decays, as we can see in Detroit. But it's a difficult topic again. It's a difficult issue to talk about. But really, again, this is a mess of ideas that I'm talking about. But really, what the issue is stereotypes do exist for a reason, and I'm not saying that blacks are all murderers, because they're not. They're not. What I'm saying is there are a lot of them that are, and there are a lot of them that aren't. And the ones that do this crime are the ones who are seen the most. And I'm pretty sure black people have this same stereotype themselves. I'm pretty sure they think the same thing as well. Um, but again, I'm not saying that that's how it is. I'm saying that that's how it's thought to be. At the same time, it is as well. Sorry, I mean, blacks do commit crime at a massive rate compared to their own size. Let's say they have a statistically small. They're not statistically small minority, but they are a minority in the US. But yet they perform around, let's say, more crimes for their own number, if that makes sense. Um, let's say if whites commit around 30% of the crime in the US and blacks commit 30% or 20%, but they only represent, say, 19%, that's a bit, the lines are a bit blurred when you see the numbers of each ethnicity in the country. Now, I might make another video on this because my ideas on this are completely skewered, and this video is lasting way too long. But Black Lives Matter is spreading to the UK. There was a McDonald's that was taken over by a Black Lives Matter movement. There are protests being done in London for racial diversity, which I'll make another video about. Honestly, it's ridiculous how I see blacks in the UK doing this when they, on the whole, have not been subjected to slavery in the UK at all, where they have not gone through the same things in the US that they have. Sure, we might have some Caribbean descended blacks, and we might have some British black slave families which were here since the 1700s. We might have one or two families in the UK, I guess. But on the whole, I find it preposterous that in the UK this is happening. Let us look back and say before the 1900s, because there was some relaxation of laws during that era. There was no equality of any race. If you were deemed to be non-white, you were treated like a subhuman in most cases. And you were not allowed to own property, you were not allowed to do a lot of things. You were not allowed to vote like women, you were not allowed to hold property, you were not allowed to hold shares, you were not allowed to do a lot of things that normal citizens of a country should do, but now you can. The only thing that stands in your way is your own work and the social stigma. And I'm not going to deny the social stigma because it does exist. Again, you're never going to get rid of this social stigma. It can't go away because it's in the psychology of humans. And we humans are still stuck in the hunter-gatherer mindset of our ancestors 200,000 years ago. We're still in that mindset. We're still in a tribal mindset. We form tribes in society all the time. If I make a society racially homogenous, I can guarantee you that splits and divisions will appear within months, or maybe even weeks. Okay, within weeks or months, or maybe even a year's time, you will see different groups appear, dividing themselves on class, on gender, on their education level, on how white you are, or how dark skinned you are, whatever you want. That's not even. It's just an example. But what I'm saying is the main thing about it is we're humans, we're always going to divide ourselves, and when there's obvious dividers, whether that be ethnicity or culture or language or history, heritage or whatever, those are just reminders of how stupid we are as humans. I'm going to call it a day. I understand that this video is all over the place. I will sort out my format on how I will do these videos. But until then, we will see you next time.